Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle. I am the branch manager at the Watson Branch Library of the Livingston Parish Library. And if you've ever seen me in person or at the libraries or have seen me talk in these videos, you probably know that I am a huge fangirl. I will fangirl just about anything, and I've probably talked to many patrons just about my love of all things books and movies and fandom. So today I am very, very excited to be able to chat with an actual member of Starfleet, Trisha Tunis.
Yay! So excited to be here and
Yeah.
talk about Star
I
Trek
know we're so
and
glad to
books and
have you
everything
and
else.
everything. We're so glad to
Yes,
have you here for Comicpalooza 2021. It's a little bit different than our normal Comic Cons, but we got to do what we got to do. And at the library, we're always having fun. So here we
that's the
are.
rule.
Okay, Trisha, so I want you to introduce yourself and introduce Starfleet and what it means to be in
Sure,
Starfleet.
absolutely. Be happy to. I'm Vice Admiral Trisha Tunis of the USS Corsair Starfleet. I've actually been involved in Star Trek since about 1993 when a college friend of mine lugged me to a Star Trek convention in Ohio. And I just fell in love with just interacting and meeting new people, new experiences, and have just gotten more and more active over the years. And when we moved down here from New Jersey down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we decided to start a Star Trek fan club of our own called the Corsair. We are now over 50 people strong, and we do a bunch of things. We do everything from potlucks to movie nights to online viewing parties and
Oh, that's fun.
trivia games. And obviously community service too. We've helped out on the kid. We've helped out with the food bank up in Hammond. We really do keep ourselves busy and exploring. And as we're all part of Starfleet, which is the world's oldest and largest Star Trek fan club. We have chapters worldwide in England, Canada,
Wow.
China. We even have one called the USS Panda in China. Cuba, we have one. So wherever you go, there we are, is how I see it.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay. So you started the chapter in this area? Is that what you're is
Yeah, actually, my husband actually ran a chapter in New Jersey, and when we moved down here, we were having so much fun with that chapter. Well, we'll start one down here because it is a great way to meet people. And we were new to the area. We didn't know anyone, but we wanted to share our love with Trek, and other people joined us. And we just started from a Sonic, basically meeting in a Sonic, to community coffee. Now we will be meeting at the Jones Creek Library when they do reopen the meeting rooms someday. But right now we're meeting virtually, and we do love to see new faces.
Wow, that's amazing and like such a good way to get to know people, especially if you're
Mhm.
new to an area or get to know like-minded people that are into the same thing. So that's really
Exactly.
yeah.
And find out where all the good coffee shops are and
Yes.
everything else.
And the good Sonics too, apparently.
Yes, exactly.
And I love Sonic, so
There you go.
okay, so one thing that I do want to do before we get in further into our chat is I want to define what fandom means because you'll probably
Sure.
hear me say it or hear us talk about it. And it's generally known as kind of like the state of being a fan of something or
Absolutely.
generally like the community of fans that are fans of something.
Yes.
So pretty much anything can have a fandom nowadays. You know, Star
Yes.
Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter, sports. So anything can really, have a fandom
Yeah,
nowadays.
it's a way for a group of people to share their appreciation of a subject. It really is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of define that in case anybody hadn't heard that before and they were like, what is she talking about? Um, okay. So on to Star Trek. So Star
Yes.
Trek has been around since the 60s.
Yes.
So what is like the current state of Star Trek right now in 2021?
2020, oh, it is growing. Every time I check online or anything, there's always a new Star Trek show or something going on. I mean, when the big part of this has been CBS All Access, they've really have invested in Star Trek, and they want to absolutely share, their love of it with everyone else. So, we started with Star Trek Discovery. And then there's Star Trek Picard and Lower Decks, and there will be a Section 31 series, from what I understand.
Wow.
And then we have Strange New Worlds, which will feature Anson Mount, and it will be follow the adventures of Captain Pike.
Wow.
So
So those
yeah,
are all
so
of
we're
the yeah, so those are all of the new things on top of all of the
on
old
top of the
shows that
old
have been.
things.
Wow. So it's like ever
Yes.
growing.
Yeah, it is, and there's books coming out every day. It just absolutely, it's hard to keep track of everything. It really is.
Yeah, I was doing like research and just looking into it, and I was like, it's growing every day, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I remember kind of back between like maybe about 2010 to about 2014, it was a little quiet till the reboot movies, what we call the
Mhm.
reboot movies,
Right.
came out. And then that seemed to start generating a little bit more excitement. And then when they decided to launch that network with CBS All Access and they decided to do Star Trek Discovery, yeah, Star Trek was back.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so before we keep going, I'm gonna have to have Jeremy edit this out. Sorry, Jeremy. I need to like sip some water really quick. Sorry, I had like a tickle in my throat and I was like, my eyes starting to water.
Oh
So
no.
we'll cut this out, edit this out. Okay. So as we've talked about, there are a lot of different versions of Star Trek through the years, even now. So what are your thoughts on all of the different versions that we've had, and what's your favorite?
Okay, all the different versions that we have really kind of reflect the time period that they were made. You go from classic Trek, addressing a lot of social issues, racism, the Cold War, all those issues. And then you start jumping into Star Trek Next Generation, a little bit more exploration, meeting new people, trying to resolve conflicts diplomatically. And then you go to Deep Space Nine, a little bit darker. It was the 90s, it was a little darker. And now we're catapulting into Star Trek Discovery, which is once more tackling those huge social issues that we see now, with Black Lives Matter and, gender identity and everything like that, and trying to make it possible for people to understand and appreciate the issues and think about them, really just
Right.
absolutely think about them, and relate it to their lives and try to improve the future, because that's one thing Star Trek has always done, is tried to project to have a better future. Hey, if we do this, you know what, we can try to reach that idealistic future of Star Trek where people are taken care of and conflicts are ideally resolved peacefully. Okay, don't look at Deep Space Nine all the time with the war. That happened. But, that type of thing is absolutely, what Star Trek is all about. As for my favorite Star Trek, I like Star Trek Next Generation with Captain Picard. Definitely my favorite. It's the one I probably have seen the most episodes of. My husband, he's a classic Trek fan. Yes, we still do get along. Um, but definitely Next Gen, just because of that message of exploration. I love Patrick Stewart. He's my favorite captain. So it just, that whole vibe that Star Trek Next Generation has, I think is excellent. And just the way the whole crew relates together and works as a team, to overcome difficulties.
Right. That's actually a really lovely like sentiment. And I honestly had no idea that Star Trek did so much. Like it's not just a space show. It's not just,
No,
time to check out for a little while and just, mindless entertainment. There's actual commentary and, they're doing a lot to talk about social issues or, try to have a better future. Like that's a really lovely sentiment. And I feel like that's something that you can relate to books as well.
absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay, well that's good to know. I had no idea that Star Trek like that was what it was in it, but that sounds amazing. So obviously I need to watch more shows and
There
get
you go.
further into it. Okay. Um so with many fandoms in like that have multiple outlets, TVs, movies, books, um typically there's a strong preference for a certain one, like in a person they usually have a preference for one of them. So for you personally, are you movies, TV shows, books?
I guess more television shows just because there's more out there, and it's also television shows also allow you to explore the characters more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the great things. I will segue over into books. The books that go with the Star Trek series are excellent, just from the standpoint of you can get the backstory on a lot of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to really explore what motivates, say, Worf or Picard or Cisco, and really delve into them, because sometimes it feels like when you get with a movie, you just get a small snippet of what's going on. Television show, you get a little bit longer arc, and then if you add the books on there, a lot of times you can get the backstory to a Star Trek episode, because there's a lot of novelizations of the movies and some of the television shows that were like, oh, okay, yes, you have this episode of Star Trek, but what happened right before this was, and it explains what's going on a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you think about it, a movie, you can only put so much in 2 to 3 hours.
Yes.
But then if you have, 10, 12 episodes, every so often of a TV show, that's a little bit more. But then if you have books, it like gradually, like,
yes, it
increases
deepens your relation. It
right.
really does deepen your understanding of the character.
So then if you read, watch all of them, then you just have the whole,
you have
universe.
The whole story.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. So I know within a lot of fandoms and then a lot of reboots, there's been, some general like thoughts on reboots. So how did you feel about the new movie reboots that you mentioned earlier?
Okay, yes. The reboots with Christopher Pine, I thought they were pretty good. I mean, as long as you kind of took them separate from the television show and appreciated them in their own light and not like comparing directly, like, oh, Christopher Pine versus William Shatner. Don't do that. If you take it on your own, it's a pretty good plot line. A little bit too much lens flare, I will be honest. But overall, I thought they were pretty well done. They were interesting to watch. Definitely the plots were intriguing. Even the second one, that was pretty much a direct copy of Wrath of Khan, because that was the idea that they wanted to do, was that they wanted to do a little bit more of a reboot of Wrath of Khan. But I would have liked to have gone more into that universe a little bit, just to see kind of how Bones relates and how this Spock developed versus our classic Trek Spock. Just little interesting twists that they put on it would have been interesting to see. But from what I understand, the movie era is temporarily at least done, and they're going to be focusing on television.
Right. Like you said, because there's so many new TV shows coming out.
Oh, yeah.
That they're okay, good. Well, and I like that you said to keep kind of the movies and either the TV shows or the books separate. Like they're their own entities. They can't be the same exact thing. And I go into watching adaptations of books the same way. Like I like to keep them a little bit separate. So that's good to know. So overall, they were pretty well done. As far as new movies.
They're not my favorites. I'll be honest, not my favorites, but I did enjoy them when I sat down. Gotcha. I really enjoyed it, and that's a bottom line. If I enjoy something, that's great.
Right. And see, I'll admit I did watch them because I like Chris Pine, I like Zachary Quinto, like I like, a lot of the characters. So I was just like, yeah, I'll watch them, and I enjoyed them. But I'm sure, going into the whole fandom, seeing all of it, you could definitely probably tell the difference between the two. Okay.
Definitely.
Well, good to know. So I know you've mentioned a few of your favorite, but who are your all-time favorite characters?
Oh, geez. They're all.
They're like all your babies. They're all your like children.
The episode. I mean, I really do enjoy, like with Deep Space Nine, I really do enjoy the character of Cisco, just because he does go very dark sometimes. Just because war is never pretty.
Right.
And sometimes you got to get your hands dirty in order to get an objective conquered. And so I would say Cisco is definitely a favorite of mine. Actually, one of the sub characters off of Deep Space Nine I really enjoy is Garrick.
Okay.
Yeah, who was the tailor, who was he was not just a simple tailor, I'm sure. He was also a spy. So that kind of made his character very, very interesting.
Yeah.
As far as alien races go, I'm known for loving my Romulans. I absolutely, so from the first time I saw them in Classic Trek, wanted to know more about them. There's some great books out there by Diane Duane
Okay.
that are old. They're from the 80s, so they are a little bit tough to find. Check your used bookstores and your libraries,
Mm-hmm.
like My Enemy, My Ally, and The Romulan Way, which really develops that culture. And what really has me really excited is now we're in Picard, we're back revisiting what happened to the Romulans, and there's a lot of
Okay.
Romulans in Picard. So
Okay,
they're
good.
back again too. So I'm
Gotcha. So now
excited
you get
to,
to like have your favorites back and like get
yeah.
a little bit more of it. Okay, good. Okay, so since there is so much to choose from, like there's so many different
Yes.
outlets that this fandom has, what where would you say that someone should start if they were just getting into Star Trek?
If you're just getting into Star Trek, I would definitely start with the classic series. That's your base. Everybody knows them. And even just in the culture, people know the terminology. Beam me
Mhm.
up, Scotty.
Right.
Live long and prosper. It's a very familiar thing. Also, the special effects are kind of wonky, but, it was the 60s. But it's very enjoyable stories, that really are interesting to watch even now. So that's probably, I would say, would be a good starting point. And then, movies like the classic Wrath of Khan, and then there's B Whales with Star Trek 4. Those are also some great areas. And then just work your way as what you find interesting.
Hmm.
What's great is a lot of the episodes, especially like with Star Trek Next Generation, Classic Trek, they stand on their own. You don't need to watch the entire series to
Okay, that's
understand
good to
what's
know.
going on. Now, stuff like Deep Space Nine has a little bit more of an arc to it with the Dominion War. Voyager also has more of an arc to it. As they got along, it seems like they have more arcs to them than
Mhm.
the earlier Star Trek shows. So
Okay,
those you kind of have to watch in order to understand exactly what's going on. But
gotcha.
definitely, I would definitely start with classic Trek.
Okay, but that's good to know that the next generation is kind of like episodic, so you can kind of
Yeah.
just come here and pick it and choose. That's good to know. Okay, so now that we've discussed Star Trek itself, can you give us like a little bit more? I know you touched on it, but a little bit more of how you specifically got into Star Trek. Like, what pulled you into Star Trek?
I think what pulled me into Star Trek was the storytelling, learning more about the characters, the idea of space. I was an astronomy nut when I was younger, loved, looking out at the stars at night, space exploration, that whole thing. And then just got into the stories and what was happening. It's almost like a little bit of a soap opera. Oh no, what's
Right.
going to happen this week? And then I met people that are really into the show, and that's how I got involved in fandom. And then that kind of drives on your own that you want something to talk about. And I just enjoy the storytelling and just that whole trying to go towards a better future too. It's
Right.
very optimistic,
Mhm.
and so it kind of rubs off on you.
Right. I know you have me intrigued. I feel like I want to go. I'm going to start probably with the original and start watching it because I'm very intrigued. And you're like, this is a good selling point for me. I'm very
Yeah.
excited. So what got you into like conventions?
Basically, just hanging out with my friends. That's
Gotcha.
all there is. Yeah, and seeing the guests and listening to stories behind the scenes. Like if you've ever seen any of the Star Trek Next Generation guests, they are hysterical.
Really?
They used to they get along extremely well with one another, and they also like to tell jokes about each other. They're very fun guests, and finding out little, oh yeah, that one thing there, yeah, we got that at Kmart, like around the corner because we needed something for the corner of the desk.
That's
and
hilarious.
and like stories like, oh yeah, I was always trying to make so and so crack up, or that type of stuff. You get to see behind the scenes, and you also get to talk to people that share what you love about the show. So you get to meet new people, also get to dress up a little bit, something different,
Which is always fun.
which is always fun. Yes. So you get to show off your sewing skills. I did not sew this, but there's a couple outfits I did sew eons ago.
Oh
And
wow.
just to be creative, it's a chance to be creative, get a chance to also role play being a different person. A lot of times we have, like on our chapter, we have actually a Star Trek role play that's online that, kind of like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Each one of us has a character and we have a scenario that we have to work through.
Oh, that's
My
fun.
character is a Federation captain, however, is actually Romulan. She actually had to flee the Romulan Empire because some people didn't like her anymore. And so the Federation, since she was a good leader over there, they put her in charge of the oldest and most rust bucket ship in Starfleet to try to get things done and just keep her out of trouble.
Gotcha. That sounds like a lot of fun. So you can kind of bring in your own, character, your own
Mhm.
backstory, and you can pick, like,
Absolutely.
since you like the Romulans and you like this and you like this, and you can do your own
Yes,
story from
absolutely.
there.
You
That's
could be
so much
anything
fun.
you want to be.
That's so much fun. And who doesn't want to just like have fun and be someone else for a little while,
Yeah,
especially in
and
a story and a whole fandom that you love.
yeah, and plus each time we role play, it's a puzzle that we have to figure out. It's a mystery. What's going on? We have to work together. We have to ask questions and deduct exactly, okay, how do we resolve this? And occasionally we get to fire on things. We get to shoot the phasers. That's
Yeah.
always fun too.
Yeah. And that's good because you're creating your own little
Mhm.
episode of a show or your own
Yes.
movie or your own book like that day, whatever you're doing, you're creating your own
Hmm.
story within the fandom. That's so much
Exactly.
okay, so I know for me specifically, reading has brought me into some of my favorite fandoms and really encouraged me to be more involved, like, or obsessed with the things that I love. So,
Yeah.
do you think that there is a connection between reading and your love of Star Trek or fandoms in
Yeah,
general?
absolutely. Because I used to love to read sci-fi novels,
Hmm.
fantasy novels, romance. Actually, I still do read romances. Ask my husband.
Same, same.
Way too many. He's like, okay, yeah. Um, that's my second love is romance, and the whole thing there. But yeah, I mean, it does draw you just from the standpoint of the technology and just reading about other worlds
Hmm.
that are fictional, just like Star Trek, and then you watch Star Trek, and there it is.
Right. I know because I'm a huge fan of fantasy and
Yeah.
sci-fi. So I really prefer when I'm reading, I prefer to be taken somewhere else. And I've
Yes.
also noticed the same is true for movies and TV shows that I watch and that I'm really drawn into. And some of my biggest fandoms are usually all fantasy or
Yeah,
some sci-fi.
yeah, you want to do something else. You want to get your mind off of real life, so to speak, and
Yeah.
escape.
Yeah, like every day is normal where you go to Target and I get a Starbucks and things like that.
Yeah,
I want to read about, fighting creatures and, going into
dragons and
and
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So you get it. You get it.
yes, absolutely.
Right. So yeah, I really think there is a correlation between a love of reading and fandom. Not only just like a lot of books have fandoms, but also it just kind of really gets you into the world and it makes you want to stay in these worlds and kind of just like gradually get more immersed in it. And that's what fandom's all about.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, there's a lot of people that write. They do fan fiction based
Huge
on
part
their
of
favorite
fandom.
characters, or they do the backstory for the episode. That I know that one guy that was sitting in the back. I know he has a story, and they'll go ahead and tell that story. And there's actually professional writers that got started in
Mhm.
fandom
It's true.
and
Yeah.
are now getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So that's always a great thing right there. And more readers, more books. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. And fan fiction and even fan art is a huge thing
Absolutely.
in fandom as well.
I've seen
And
some incredible fan art.
yeah, and making like costumes and making props and different things that people have made like livelihoods on selling fan related
Absolutely.
things too. So yeah, it's really great like to be involved in a fandom and to see all the different outlets that people are doing and like they just all love this one story and it's so cool that we all can share that.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, so what are some of your favorite books that you read like as a child or now since you said you were a
Okay.
lover?
Well, I started when I was a child, definitely. I was like Walter Farley and the horse books and Marguerite Henry. I was a huge horse fan. Trust
Yeah.
me. If it had a horse on the cover, I
I
read
think
it.
everyone goes through a horse phase because we have tons
Yes.
of horse books and we'll constantly, oh, you want a horse series? And we'll bring them right to it. So
Yeah,
everybody goes through a horse
exactly.
phase.
And then we had Once and Future King with King Arthur and the Arthurian legends. And then I just,
Yep.
yeah, and then you got Pierce Anthony and obviously Anne McCaffrey
Mhm.
and just all those authors. And then, pretty much with right now I'm into the romance, historical romance genre with Julia Quinn and Eloisa James and all those people there. So, I tend to read a wide assortment of books,
Mhm.
and it's whatever I'm interested in at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm the same way. I like a wide assortment. Most of them is fantasy, but I do like a broad amount, like just
Yeah.
a broad amount of things. So are you in? So you've mentioned a bunch of the books that you've read. So are you into any other fandoms besides Star Trek?
Let's see. Any other fan? I do like my Supernatural. That's
Oh, me
always good.
too. Me too.
And yes, I am a Star Wars fan too. I,
Oh, okay. So it could be both. Okay.
I could definitely do both. I do like, let's see, oh, I know so many. I did the Vampire Diaries for a while. I think definitely Vampire Fandom. I enjoyed that. It's just pretty much whatever perks my interest, I will go ahead and dabble in. But definitely, I would say Star Trek, Star Wars are probably my two biggest ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I feel like if someone is a fan and they get into the fandom and they really get into it, they're multiple fan. Like they're in multiple fandoms.
Yeah.
If you're pretty much like can get obsessed with a subject or a series or a book or a TV show, you get obsessed about a lot of things. I've learned.
Yes, exactly. Because, you'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, oh, you have to try this.
Mhm.
And the next thing you know, you're at 2 a.m. in the morning binge watching something.
Yep, I've been
I'm sure
there.
that's never happened.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. You mentioned Arthurian Legend. They have this new show, Cursed,
Yeah,
on
that's on my
Netflix.
list to watch.
Yeah, it's
Right
really
now, I'm
good.
working on Riverdale.
Oh, I was obsessed with Riverdale. One Comic Con, I dressed up as Betty because I
Oh,
like it was a last minute thing, and like some people got it, but then some people were just like, "What are you doing?" So yeah, I've been there. So I've that's one thing that I've noticed that fans and people who are in fandoms, they have multiple fandoms and they love to share their love of things with
absolutely.
everybody and just talk and just chat about
I
it.
could talk for hours. Really, I
Same.
could.
Yeah, that's what I a lot of my work in the library has been with teens. And one of
Yes,
our biggest things that we've done just in the library with teens is fandoms. And we all just love to sit and chat about them. It's one of the,
exactly.
yeah, it
And
connects
just
us all.
interact and discover new things and get new friends.
Yes, definitely. It's like so nice to just meet other people, like-minded people. Well, since you mentioned that your two big fandoms are Star Wars and Star Trek, I've
Yes.
always wondered how the two fandoms like work together. So
Oh, we
how
work
do
together well. We
really?
really do. Yes.
Okay.
Well, you got to understand, we now have J.J. Abrams, who's done Star Wars and Star Trek films.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we kind of share that. But also, we both love a good story. I have definitely interacted a lot. Actually, my chapter has done a lot with the local Star Wars group that we've actually did competitive bowling that we had a
Oh.
head to head
Was it
against each
galactic
other.
bowling? Like, did you consider it galactic bowling?
Oh yeah, we did. It was
Oh,
total
okay.
galactic bowling, for the fate of the universe,
Okay.
and we actually raised money for charity. So
Oh,
that was for a
amazing.
good cause.
See, fandom's doing good. This is
Yes,
good.
and
See,
a lot
I
of
always
times when there's a Star Wars premiere, we will show up in our Star Trek uniform.
That's awesome. See, I
We
always
just like to have
wondered.
fun.
Yeah, I always wondered if there was like, like beef, like, oh, like a
Oh
little.
no, no, no.
Okay,
There
good.
there
Well,
really
that's
isn't. At least I know locally there's
gotcha,
really, I mean,
gotcha.
we hang out. We get grouped together a lot, especially at conventions.
Right,
And
right.
we help each other out. Like if they're doing something, sometimes we'll help out as what they call handlers,
Hmm.
which means that we'll kind of do bodyguard duty and help people that want to get their picture taken with
Right,
them in
right.
uniform. We'll hold on to the cameras and take the pictures for them, so that way it makes it a little easier. And when you're in those Star Wars outfits, it's very hard to see, especially with the
Yes.
helmets. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to help direct them too to make sure they don't,
Right.
don't get hurt.
Right. Well, that's so nice. Like nice, like good camaraderie. That's good to see. Okay, so last question that I do want to ask is how does someone join Starfleet in the local chapter?
Oh, absolutely. It's very, very easy. The Starfleet website is www.sfi.org. And basically, there's a join button there. You just join it, and you pick out as your designated chapter the USS Corsair. In parentheses will be R3, which is Region 3, which is Texas and Louisiana. And basically, that's the quickest and easiest way to join. If you want to see what our calendar of events is, you can go to brstartrek.com or email info@brstartrek.com, and we'd be happy to get you the information. We do have a Discord server that is open 24/7 for people to chat on. Obviously, we have the website. And if you're a part of Starfleet, you're joining over 5,000 people worldwide talking about Star Trek. We also have a Starfleet Academy that you can actually take classes not only about Star Trek, but also Star Wars, real life history stuff. We have over, I think it's like 3,000 courses that people can take.
Oh, that's awesome.
What's even better for college kids, if you're going to college, we have a Starfleet scholarship program. It pays either $500 or $1,000 a year. Wow. I am proud to say one of my members won it this year. He just graduated from the University of Louisiana in Lafayette.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, so we actually are a strong supporter of the future ourselves. And members can apply for that once a year and hopefully win one. There's usually 4 that they award every year. In different categories, one for science, one for communication, to kind of go along with the different departments.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, so and obviously you get to go to conventions, and I have to say we do get a lot of perks with conventions that a lot of times we can get in before it opens because we have an information table.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps. But yeah, you also get to talk about, we also have Pet Fleet. So for if anybody's an animal lover, we actually have people that talk about their animals, and our animals are a part of Starfleet.
Yeah, you can see mine in the background.
Yeah, so definitely we welcome all species.
That's amazing. Wow, that just sounds so like fun and so like such a good community and camaraderie. Like I love that.
Yeah, it is. And it is just so easy to just go to sfi.org and you hit that join button and there you go. And we even have the join button on our website too at brstartrek.com, the BR being Baton Rouge.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much, Trisha, for coming and talking to us today. I feel like, I learned a lot. I'm sure those watching have learned a lot about Star Trek. And even if you already love Star Trek, this hopefully gave you something to think about, or even some new ideas of shows to watch or anything like that. So thank you so much for coming here and chatting with us today.
Oh, no, thank you. And live long and prosper.
Yeah, yes, live long and prosper. Okay, guys, so if you liked this video, we have more videos coming up in Comicpalooza 2021. If you have any comments, if you have any comments or questions for Trisha or for the library or any other videos that you'd like to see, feel free to comment and let us know. We love hearing from you guys, and we love knowing what you want to see. And until next time, live long and prosper.
Yeah. Peace and long life.
Yes.